The Adventures of a Traveler. Petra. Adrian's second stop. The lost rose city of sand and silence. Arrival in the Wadi. The air was different here. It was dry, warm, and filled with an ancient stillness that clung to the red rock canyons of southern Jordan. As Adrian stepped off the narrow desert road and into the town of Wadi Musa, the sun hung low over the hills, casting amber shadows across the sand. It was his second journey into the ancient wonders of the world, following the footsteps of his quiet pilgrimage to Machu Picchu. That journey had changed him, quieted something inside, while awakening something else. Now he stood at the threshold of Petra, the legendary city carved from stone. A place once forgotten, now remembered with awe. A city of echoes, myths, and architectural grace, all wrapped in the rose-colored cliffs of the desert. At the small guest house where he would stay, a soft-spoken man named Fadi offered him a cup of mint tea. "You've come at the best hour," he said. "Petra is most beautiful at dawn, and most honest at dusk." Adrian nodded, notebook in hand, backpack still heavy with dreams. That night, sleep came lightly. The wind whispered stories outside his window, of kings and merchants, of Nabataeans and Romans, of gods etched in stone and secrets buried beneath sand. Entering the Sick. At dawn, Adrian entered the Sick, the narrow gorge that serves as the secret entrance to Petra. The path wound like a sacred corridor, its sandstone walls rising tens of meters high, twisted and curved like frozen waves. The Nabataeans, he had read, were a people of immense wisdom and mystery. Nomadic in origin, they had built Petra as their capital around the 4th century BCE. Their genius lay in carving life directly into rock, and in harnessing the desert's most precious gift, water. As he walked the winding Sick, he ran his fingers along the striated canyon walls, reddish-pink stone flecked with veins of orange and violet. Here and there, faint carvings hinted at forgotten gods. Water channels still ran silently along the base of the walls, testament to the Nabataeans' hydrological brilliance. Then, just as the light shifted, the gorge opened like a curtain and revealed the Al-Khazneh. The Treasury. There it stood. The Treasury, or Al-Khazneh, gleamed in the morning light. Its Hellenistic facade, carved directly into the rock face, rose nearly 40 meters tall. Columns, pediments, and intricate friezes told stories of wealth, gods, and forgotten time. Adrian stood breathless. In truth, no one knew exactly what the Al-Khazneh had been. Tomb? Temple? Monument to kings or to the divine? The name Treasury came from Bedouin legends that spoke of pharaohs hiding gold within the urn atop the structure. To Adrian, it looked less like a treasury and more like a poem written in stone. He found a flat rock and sat, watching the interplay of sunlight and shadow across its face. Tourists came and went, voices hushed, as though speaking too loudly might wake the stones. He opened his notebook and wrote, "Petra was not built to impress. It was carved to remember, to anchor time in stone." Tombs, silence, and stone. Beyond the Treasury, the ancient city spread wide. Dozens, perhaps hundreds of tombs carved into the mountainside. The royal tombs, the Corinthian tomb, the palace tomb, each unique, yet part of a larger, silent chorus. Adrian climbed to the high place of sacrifice, a path of uneven steps carved into sheer rock. At the summit, he looked down at the valley below, a stone city half swallowed by time. Here, ceremonies had once been held to honor Dushara, the chief god of the Nabataeans, and his divine sister, Al-Uzza. Statues no longer stood, but the energy remained, a solemn echo in the wind. The Nabataeans did not build upward. They built inward, into mountains, into silence, into permanence. The water that gave life. Petra's survival in such an arid land was not magic, it was mastery. Adrian wandered along the remains of the ancient aqueducts, the rock-cut channels and cisterns that once carried and stored water from distant springs. The Nabataeans had perfected water harvesting. Hidden pipes, subterranean reservoirs, even dams were used to tame seasonal floods and create a stable supply. The city could sustain over 30,000 people at its height. At a shaded rest point, Adrian spoke with a local guide named Salma. They say Petra is made of stone, but in truth, it is made of water. Without it, there is no life, and without life, there is no memory. He wrote her words down, underlined them twice. The monastery. The path was long. Over 800 stone steps carved into the cliffside, twisting and rising with no handrails, no shade. Adrian climbed slowly, pausing often, not from exhaustion, but from reverence. With each step he felt he was ascending not just a mountain, but a threshold, into something ancient and profound. At last, the path opened. There it stood. The monastery, Ad-Dar. Larger than the Treasury, simpler in its decoration, but no less powerful. Nearly 50 meters wide and 45 meters high, the facade loomed like a monument to the gods of stone and sky. Once used as a temple, perhaps even a gathering place for sacred rituals, the monastery felt more like a cathedral of silence than a tourist site. A lone fig tree grew at the edge of the platform. Adrian sat beneath it, drinking in the vastness. From here, he could see the Edom Mountains in the distance, and beyond them, the faint breath of the desert reaching towards Israel and the Red Sea. He thought, this is what the ancients called a center of the world, where time stops and something eternal begins. A city of trade and shadow. Petra was not just sacred, it was strategic. Adrian walked through the remains of the colonnaded street, where the bustling heart of the city once pulsed with the footsteps of traders from Arabia, Egypt, the Levant, and Rome. It had been a crossroads of civilizations. Frankincense from Yemen, silk from China, spices from India. Caravans passed through Petra, where the Nabataean merchants taxed, stored, and traded their precious cargo. The city thrived in the shadows of empires, growing wealthy without the sword. Adrian imagined the sounds. Hooves on stone, deals whispered in dozens of languages, laughter and coin clinks in the market air. He imagined a merchant's daughter watching from the rooftop, her eyes tracing the distant sun as it set behind the sandstone peaks. But nothing lasts forever. In time, Rome annexed the Nabataean kingdom. Trade routes shifted. Earthquakes struck. Petra was slowly abandoned, and the sands came to reclaim it. The Nabataeans. Adrian spent a morning in Petra's small museum, housed near the archaeological park's entrance. In the quiet halls, surrounded by broken urns and incense burners, he came to know the Nabataeans not just as builders, but as people. They had their own script, a flowing early form of Arabic. They worshipped gods of sky and storm. Their artisans carved statues with Greek influence, but their souls were desert-born. The women of Petra wore colorful robes, their jewelry detailed with silver and garnet. Children played in shade carved from stone. Their kings, Aratus, Obadas, Malichus, ruled not from palaces, but from carved halls, echoing with incense and song. Adrian looked at a reconstructed altar fragment. On it was a symbol of Dushera, a simple black cube, faceless, abstract. He noted even their gods were unshaped. They believed in what could not be seen, only felt. Petra at dusk. That evening, Adrian returned to the sick. The cliffs had turned from gold to rose to deep violet. Petra changed color with the sun, like a living being. As night fell, the path to the Treasury was lit with hundreds of candles. It was a special evening, Petra by night. The Al-Khazneh glowed gently in the dark, bathed in orange flame and hushed songs. Bedouin musicians played the oud and ney. Their melodies drifted like prayers through the canyon. Adrian sat cross-legged on a rug, surrounded by others, yet profoundly alone in thought. He remembered something he had read. Petra is a place where the desert speaks. And tonight it did, in whispers and flickers, in music and memory. The farewell. His final morning in Petra was silent. He rose before the sun and walked one last time through the sick. The rock seemed softer now, more familiar, like old friends who had listened without judgment. Before he left, Adrian paused at a high overlook near the royal tombs. He took out his notebook and wrote, "There is a kind of time here that does not pass, a stillness that stays behind your eyes. Petra is not made of stone. It is made of memory." As he descended into Wadi Musa once more, he looked back. The city was still there, but it no longer needed to be seen. It was now carved within him. Epilogue. The map unfolds. In the airport lounge in Amman, Adrian sat by a wide window. Planes taxied beyond the glass, but his mind was elsewhere, still in the desert, still in the shadow of the monastery. He opened his notebook, where the next page waited blank. He drew a circle, and inside it a single word: Petra. Below it he listed another destination, the third wonder. The journey continued.